Sometimes I think that office work is designed to be a special hell for introverts. Open office spaces, constant meetings, awkward team buildings, and all that claim to be a foundation of a teamwork. For someone who is more quiet, easily gets overstimulated, or simply tired of constant people interactions, it is so important to set up your working routine in a way that works for you. In this video, I try to systemize all I knew about how to make your workplace as an introvert maybe not perfect, but at least bearable. Let's go. So in this video, I will cover a few aspects: work from office, work from home, digital spaces, and an outlook from a manager point of view. At the office, introverts usually experience three types of triggers: constant noise, interruptions, and pressure to socialize. So let me break it down one by one. The reality of the office work is surprise that there are people there. They talk to each other, they make noise, and if you need to do a focused work, it will distract you. For this trigger, I have three helpers, and the first one is headphones, preferably noise cancellation headphones, to block the noise around you. The second one is silent areas. In many modern offices, they have a split between the loud area and the silent area, where people are trying not to talk to each other, kind of the areas for people who want to do some focus work. And the third one is call booths, like soundproof phone booths, which also helps with the problem of the noise. Not all of the offices have those, and to be honest, I remember in some of the companies I used to work in, I kind of used meeting rooms sometimes that were not really needed to stay there and do some of the focus work. If it's free to use, if no one needs it, why not use it as a at least temporary space for you to shield yourself from all of the background noise. Second trigger is interruptions, where you basically don't have a privacy at the office, and many of us do actually need a time for independent work without constant interruptions. So maybe from the side it feels like someone asked you a quick question for 15 seconds, but if you have like a deep thought process, like it reflects on the quality of the work that you produce sometimes. There are a few helpers here as well. First one is also to use headphones, but my observation is if you use AirPods or like very small headphones, sometimes it's not that visible from a distance that you are in the mode of a focus work and not up for chit-chat or conversation, so it's better not to interrupt you. But if you see a person with the big headphones, it kind of hints from a distance that the person is having maybe a little bit of the focus work. So for this particular purpose, the soundproof element is less important, but if you ask me, it's good to have the big ones for it to be visible. Because if people will not see that you're in a small headphones, they will distract you. They will say, oh no, sorry, I didn't see that you're in your headphones, but your thoughts can be already lost at that point. So it's safer to have a bigger ones. By the way, this is where you can ask, oh, but why don't you work from home on the days where you need to do this focused work, or you don't need any interruptions? And a lot of people, first, they don't have an opportunity to work from home. They have to go to the office every single day. And even if they do, sometimes you cannot choose a day or the mode you work in. So I would say better be equipped how to organize this type of work when you need, for you to feel comfortable considering the office space. The second helper from this constant interruptions is a physical distance to a certain extent, meaning to sit in a further corner or in a further area of the office, somewhere where you won't be that easily accessible for people not to just pass by and think about doing a chit chat when maybe you're not up for it. By the way, I have a feeling that the phrase chit chat has a little bit of a negative connotation. I don't mean it in a negative sense. It's just sometimes we don't have an energy for that, or we don't have time for that, and this is perfectly fine. And also, if interruption happens, how you react to it matters. So a polite answer and ask not to distract will prevent this from happening in the future. The final trigger is a pressure to socialize. I mean, it's hard to go to the office and 100% avoid all types of social interactions with anyone. But sometimes it can go overboard, and different people have different thresholds of the social interactions that they can tolerate. And here the main helper, apart from the strategy of just avoiding people somehow at the office altogether, is to to set your boundaries in a polite way to others. I actually know people who have a polite, prepared in advance answer when people are reaching out to them at the office to, go and have coffee or to do something that helps them not to make other people upset too much, but still establish the boundaries that are comfortable for them. I mean, I won't give you a go-to phrase because we're all people, we communicate differently, but just think in advance what is the non-passive aggressive, genuinely polite answer when people are approaching you to socialize. That would work for you. Disclaimer from the editing me. There are traits that we traditionally attribute to introverts that can also be typical for neurologically different people. I'm not an expert on neurodiversity, and I'm talking about experience of people who consider themselves genuinely introverted. If you're a neurologically different person, this advice can still work for you. Now let's switch to a work from home mode. And here I have 4 triggers. At home interruptions, overstimulation, inability to focus, and homework creep. When it comes to interruptions at home, the ideal scenario is of course for you to have a designated area, quiet area, maybe together with headphones also helps a lot. Although I understand that the reality of a lot of people is that you just don't have a separate room for your office where you can just lock yourself and properly focus from everything. For example, I'm at home right now and I'm sitting in this, it's a separate room where I work and where I film, and it helps so much with the boundaries. So I enter, I close the door, and the chance that I will get interrupted gets so much lower. But in the past, I didn't have a separate dedicated room for that. So I had to work in the same space where someone else is also sitting and or working. And back then, I think only headphones actually practically helped. The second work from home office trigger is overstimulation. And I personally don't suffer from that much, but I've heard from friends of mine who consider themselves as highly introverted people that they sometimes get overstimulated easily. And what they usually do is when they design, organize, structure their working place at home, they are trying to avoid things or elements that might overstimulate or distract. So their home desks were usually organized in, I would say, a minimalistic and calm, manner. So without anything too bright, too screaming, very, organized and calm. Also, I think that it is minimalistic for a reason, because if you in general have a lot of things, even nice things, even things that you like in front of you, some people kind of feel uncomfortable when they're not lined up perfectly. There are just more things that can potentially trigger you, distract you, and overstimulate. The third trigger is inability to focus. And it's kind of similar to the helpers part of it, kind of similar to the previous one. If you prefer to work methodically and У меня все это время обогреватель был включен. Твою мать! Жопа. I just realized that my heater was on. I hope that the noise was not too loud. So, organized workspace helps with methodical and independent work because it helps you to stay focused and avoid distractions, because unorganized workplace distracts. Keep it organized, keep it clean, keep it efficient for you. And another trigger for home office work is homework creep. And this is not the case where someone is asking you to do something, it's sometimes ourselves. Because I'm working from home, I'm thinking, okay, maybe during the working day I can do some of the house chores or just something that is needed at home. And it's not a problem by itself necessarily, but I think that with that, we ourselves create in our minds an expectation that we need to do this. So when we're having the working day working from home, we're like, okay, I need to do this work, and I also already planned that I will do my laundry or I will do something else. And it distracts, and you have to think about it, and it can be draining. So a healthy boundary, because work and non-work time, even if you're working from home, is super important. Now, let's talk about digital space. The thing is, depending on our role, sometimes many of us have a real need in collaborating with other people. So like an objective need. Because many of us who work in corporate, we work in projects, work in teams. Not 100% of what we do is a solo independent work. But this collaboration can be very energy draining for an introverted introverted person. So how do you do this without spending your full day in a meeting room or on calls talking to other people? And the answer is digital tools for asynchronous work. The point is, there are right now all kinds of communicational, brainstorming digital tools, chats and whiteboards and other digital tools, with the primary reason of not requiring for you to immediately react to something. So for example, in the chat, you choose when you formulate your answer and answer compared to a in-person conversation. Or in the board, you can comment or add up something not in the same second when someone asked you something, right? So I see the biggest leverage and the biggest benefits for introverts in all these digital tools is that it gives you time to react. And it is much more comfortable than you just being on a constant discussions, although important ones. Now, dear managers or wannabe managers, you as a manager can promote in your team using different communicational channels, different digital tools. You can help normalize this as an approach in your team. And it's not black and white, it's not only this or that way, it's the openness to do it differently. For example, it's about not getting visibly pissed off when a person is asking you, hey, do you think we can discuss this question over the chat instead of a call? Again, maybe you still need this call, but how you react can make people either comfortable with asking this once again later on or not. Now, two other things that I believe managers can do is first, simply shorter meetings. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about you personally, but I observe sometimes that management sometimes tends to have a little bit longer meetings that maybe the team finds necessary. Just saying. And another one is promote individual reflection. Normalize saying, give this a thought and get back to me, instead of not spotlighting people. But sometimes I think managers, they like when people are thinking in their presence, which is just simply not always necessary. And if you want to learn skills that are absolutely necessary for a progressive manager, I made a video with 5 that are maybe not that obvious. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you there.